Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to show you all the books that I plan to read in November. Now, as always, I will first show you the physical picks and then we will go over the audiobooks that I want to listen to. The audiobooks will most of all be novellas because I am going to participate in Novellas in November, which is being hosted by Rick McDonald, and I will link his announcement video down below so that if you want to participate as well, you can first watch that video and then make up your TBR. But before we get to that part of the video, first the physical books that I want to pick up. And the first one is actually one that I already started, and that is The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. This is a new 2021 release, and it's the first of a new series, the Rook and Rose trilogy, and the second one is already coming out in December. So if I really like this one, I can almost immediately pick up the second one. This was actually one of your picks because I asked over on the community tab which 2021 release you wanted me to prioritize, and this one won. Now, I already started it, and during the reading sprints yesterday I made progress. I'm 150 pages in and I'm liking it so far. In this book you have a Venetian-inspired city, which is already super unique, and you follow a con artist. She is trying to wiggle her way into a noble family and that way get rich, but she is having some difficulties because this noble family, unaware to her, is facing financial issues. So they don't really want to believe her just yet and investigate her. Now, this is already a very interesting plotline because you follow this con artist who thinks that she knows everything and that she is in control, but it does seem like there are some things of this noble family that she doesn't know. On top of that, you have the Rook. And the Rook is basically a modern type Zorro who is helping the poor. And that sounds super interesting. Now, I haven't seen a lot of the Rook just yet, but since this trilogy is called the Rook and Rose trilogy, I do think that he will play a major part. So I will try to finish this book by the end of the week so that I can pick up my second pick. And I am super excited to pick up this second book of November because that is Kings of Heaven by Richard Nell. This is the third and final book of the Ash and Sand trilogy that I am reading as buddy read, and I can't wait to see how this trilogy is concluded. I really enjoyed Kings of Paradise, but I loved Kings of Ash. And after that one, I am just confident that I will like whatever Richard Nell does in this final book. Richard Nell is definitely not afraid to throw in a curveball now and then and to take risks, so I really don't know what to expect other than that it will be amazing. The full spoiler-filled discussion of this third and final book will be over on my channel, and I think that it will be the 14th of November. So if you have already read the trilogy or going to read the third one together with us, definitely put that date in your agenda. And I'm so looking forward to it because at this point, everybody that is reading this with us is loving the trilogy, so this ending is going to be definitely fuel for discussion. The third physical read is another new release of 2021, and that is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, which is the first in a new trilogy, I think, at least the series, which is called The Magic of the Lost. Now, I am a little bit hesitant about this one because it seems like it could be military fantasy, which is something that I'm not the biggest fan of, but it has some other themes that make me very interested. So first of all, in this book, you follow somebody who was been stolen as a child and then raised as a soldier. So basically a child soldier, but now as an adult. And she needs to go back to her homeland to stop a rebellion. On the other hand, you are following the leader of this homeland, and they of course also want to stop the rebellion so they can take back their throne. So I think that will be very interesting to see how these two parts of this conflict will interact with each other and what will happen. I think that if it's not too military, I might potentially love it because it seems like it will be a very emotional read as well, with some very deep-hitting themes that do play a part in our own world as well. And then the last book that I plan to pick up physically, and this is basically going to be half-half. So if I like the audiobook, I will listen to the audiobook because I do have it available. And that is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. Now, this is another first in a series, so I'm definitely not doing that well in November in trying to decrease my ongoing series pile, but it's fine. This is the first book in the Dandelion Dynasty trilogy, and I think that the third one is either already out or it is going to be out by the end of the year. Now, I don't really know a lot about this trilogy other than that it's adult fantasy. A lot of the people that I follow really enjoyed this one, and that there are a ton of political intrigues in this book. That sounds like something that I will definitely enjoy. Other than that, the setting is influenced by Asian culture, which is also something that I usually like in my fantasy books, so really looking forward to this one. This is actually going to be a buddy read together with Gregory over at Gregory La Perche, and by the end of November or in the beginning of December, we will have another spoiler-filled discussion over on his channel. So if you've read this trilogy or if you want to read together with us, then definitely do so and join us for the spoiler-filled discussion. And now I'm going to get into the novella territory. So most of these I will listen to on audiobook, but I don't have all of them available to me, so then I will read them physically. By the way, I have bought a bunch of audiobooks in my last book haul that I will link up above in the cards, but I'm not going to go over them again, even though all of them are potential pickups for November, because I just talked about them last week. So if you want to know more about the novellas that I picked up, check out that book haul. For now, these are the ones that I will prioritize in November. And the first one is A Psalm for the Wild Build by Becky Chambers. This is her new release. I think that it just came out in October, and it's actually the first in a series. I didn't know that. I thought that this was a novella standalone. It's not. But I'm really looking forward to this one. This is actually a sci-fi novella, and it is a little bit more philosophical in nature, it seems, because you are following a tea monk who has a discussion with a robot about what people want. What do humans want? And that just sounds super interesting. It's the first Becky Chambers that I am going to pick up, so for that I am really excited. And the next book is definitely one that I will have to pick up physically because I don't think that this one has an audiobook, and that is On Winter's Eve by C.D. Alexander. I think that this is self-published, and this was actually an SPFBO contestant a couple of years back, and that's how I came to know about it. It didn't really make it into the semi-finals because it's just such a short book, and the jury member said that it just couldn't really compare to these big adult fantasy novels, but she did say that it was a perfect atmospherical read if you like the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden, which is one of my favorite trilogies of all time, so I just had to pick it up. I think that this will be perfect in November because it's the colder season on Winter's Eve. It seems perfect, and I'm definitely going to have a good time. My hopes for this one are quite high. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the atmosphere of the cover. I'm really liking it, and I think that I'm in the perfect mood for a book like this. Next up, I will pick up the first book in the Tenserand series by Neon Yang. The first book is called The Black Tides of Heaven. So this is a bind-up, but I will only be committing myself to the first one in this series in November. If I like it, I can of course continue. Now, I did say during my book haul that this focuses on a lot of non-binary characters and that all the characters in this world are non-binary, but I was corrected in the comments in that people in this world are being raised as not really conforming to a gender, but they can choose their gender when they want. So this can be when they're very young, this can be when they're already an adult. And it kind of focuses on what that means for this world. So that sounds super interesting. And on top of that, I do think that this is Asian inspired, which, as I said before, is something that I do quite enjoy and find just super interesting. So yeah, again, my hopes are high for this one. And this one I do have on audiobook, so I will definitely listen to it. The next one is This Is How You Lose the Time War, and in my book haul, again, I wasn't really sure if Amal El-Mohtar or Max Gladstone was the author, but then somebody in the comments said it's actually both. So this is written by two authors, which is also something that I find very interesting, and I would like to know if I can notice that while reading. So I'm going to try to see if I will be able to tell or not. I don't think that I will, but we can see. And this is a sci-fi novella in which you follow two agents in a time war. They go back in time to change subtle things in order to tip the scale to their advantage. But in most cases, these two agents visit the same space. So by doing so, they leave little notes for each other, which is super nice. And I do think that, yeah, you're basically reading the notes during this novella, which is something that is very unique. And I like it when a story is told in a unique way through journal entries or through little notes like here. So I do want to see if a small book like this can have a big impact. I've heard a lot of great things, so my hopes are again very high. And then the last novella that I'm going to pick up is Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. I think that this is a little bit horror, so maybe I should have picked it up in October, but I don't think that I will be too scared, because in this book you have basically, I think that it takes place in Chicago, well, somewhere in America, 1915, and you have members of the Ku Klux Klan. But in this case, they are not normal people, they are actually demons, and you follow a group of people who are fighting against these demons. That sounds super interesting and something very unique, so I can't really wait to pick this one up. It's also, like most novellas, short. I think that it's one of the bigger novellas, 180 pages, but still a read that I can get to quickly. So those are all of the books that I plan to pick up in November. Like I said, I have a ton of options in terms of novellas, so I will probably pick up more than the ones that I showed here, but if you want to know which exactly, you will probably see that in my wrap-up at the end of the month. Please let me know what you think of my picks and which books you plan to pick up in November. As always, I hope that you liked the video, and see you next time. Bye!